The same old trouble villains always knocking at the door. Pretty pictures on the page, but nothing ever stays the same.
Thank you, Vandello, and welcome once again to Graphically Novel. My name is Josh Wasta, a.k.a. Fallout Fieri, and with me, as always, is the motherfuckers always trying to ice skate uphill. The silver in my blood, the anti-hemoglobin explodey chemicals in my heart. It's Bear.
Thank you, I guess. And with us again is the lovely and talented, the Baronessa, our ice skates, and our whistler. It's Jennifer.
Thank you. And it's my pleasure to introduce our guest for this episode. I'm very honored to welcome John Schwegler. I've never met you before. I've met you once. I met you once.
Yep. At the high school reunion.
That's right.
Briefly.
That's right.
Yep. So like 3 years ago. Welcome, John.
Yeah.
Long time listener.
Come on.
What's that?
Call me Schwags.
There you go. Schwags. So, Schwags, you opted in after listening to our last 2 seasons. You are, as of yet, you are the person that probably comments the most on our shows. And Schwags, you have commented on many of our episodes before, the most recent being our special episode with Vandello. I think you were the first person to kind of throw us some feedback, so we always appreciate that. So far, what has been your favorite episode?
Oh man, I'd really have to say I liked the Ninja Turtles one a lot.
Yes,
I love Ninja Turtles. I actually have those comics. I've watched all the cartoons, especially now that I have kids. My daughter has had a turtle. My daughter loves Ninja Turtles. So yeah, it was kind of a fun one. My second favorite one was probably Dark Phoenix. Just because it is just so funny to see. I'm sorry, this was just a shit show.
It was so bad. Yeah. No, everybody loves
I was mowing the lawn just laughing my ass off while I was listening to you guys. I hadn't seen the movie yet, and I had recorded it on HBO one night, and I said, I shouldn't watch this. And then after the episode, I did watch it. I shouldn't have watched it.
Do you remember anything from it? Because that was my problem.
I do, but the thing I remember most is, wow, they took the worst X-Men movie and said, fuck it, let's make it worse.
Yeah, seriously. Okay, so this season we've been doing a special themed drink. So before we get into Schwags' history with comic books, Bear took Blade, which is today's episode, and decided that he would be doing our drinks for Blade.
And we're going to get a little bit of a flashback here. And Schwegler, you might even recognize this.
Yep. When you said you had to go to multiple places, I knew what it was.
Right?
He's breaking out the chartreuse, isn't he?
No. This right here, it would be
Black Sambuca.
Romana Black and cranberry juice, which Josh and I developed during our bartending days as a way to try and just sell more Romana Black, because it was the one thing that we had on the liquor shelf that wasn't moving. And we're like, how do we get college kids to drink black licorice? And then we were like, well, we can just bomb it into cranberry juice.
Which we did.
And we tried it, and we're like, this is actually pretty tasty. But now we're adults, and we're not bombing shit anymore because, well, we don't want to break our glassware. So
right. Well, and also we had a goth night called a Felian that happened once a month on a Sunday. And, you drop something black into a glass half filled with something red. And, of course, it, comes up in a cloud of black. And that it works for the goth crowd.
Yeah.
Jen is looking very skeptical right now.
I remember some of those nights.
There was a lot of those nights, and not all of them ended well. And I didn't get anything to stir these with, and didn't want to bust out a shaker, so hold on a moment.
Ooh, I can smell it.
I could smell this as soon as I cracked the bottle. I was like, oh. Nostalgia isn't always good.
I love Sambuca.
I might have made a terrible mistake. We'll find out shortly. I don't know how well this aged according to our 20-something taste buds.
What taste buds?
Right?
And we were 20-something. All right.
I'm just curious, is it going to be like if you eat a fruity jelly bean and a black jelly bean?
Yes.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Sláinte.
Yeah, it does have definitely that kind of jujubes.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I like Sambuca, so it's not like I think it's terrible, but that is an interesting juice to put Sambuca with.
Yeah, that was just one of those things like what we didn't know. We're like, what do we sell? How do we sell Sambuca to 20-somethings in a bar?
I will say now that I am older and, choose what goes in my fridge and not running it out of a bar, I would probably do this with pomegranate juice.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, Schwegler, this is your first time gracing our show. Why don't you give us a little bit of your background with comics, comic books, and maybe what are your favorites? What was your first one? You know the drill.
Well, my first one we got in an airport. I think it was like a Superman one, and when I was like 5 years old, and we were just passing through. I still have it actually.
Nice.
And
Very cool.
It's a very strange comic. I got that one, and also a Power Man and Iron Fist. It won back in the 80s. So it was, I didn't know anything about these characters, nothing. Fast forward, probably about 7-8 years, and Batman, the animated series comes on.
Yep.
A lot of people, that's how they got into comics, was Batman, the animated series. And I was like, this is really cool. Well, that summer, me and all my friends would ride up through Willowwood there, you know the place, up to Hy-Vee, and they had a comic book stand there for a brief second. I believe it was a guy we know, Dan Alpers, ran it.
Yep.
At the time. Yep. And I was just like, you know what? Maybe I'll try comics. And at that time, Batman 500 had just come out. Wow. Going back, I bought it. I bought a bunch of them. I just started reading, and I was like, okay, this is pretty good. Lo and behold, years later, I reread all that stuff, and I'm like, wow, that was really bad.
Yeah, we discovered that with Dark Phoenix.
A lot of those 80s, yeah, especially the Dark Phoenix.
But it got me into comics. I collected for a while Batman, Superman, a little bit of Spawn, a little bit of X-Men at that time, because the X-Men cartoon also. Then got away from it, and then worked at Barnes & Noble. Got back into it. Fables, Preacher, some of the more adult stuff was good. Got back out of it, and last summer got back into it when had my daughter, and I had a few weeks off of work for my daughter's birth, and we went to the library, and I found the Walking Dead comics.
Nice.
The graphic novels of all. I burned through in like 5 weeks the full series of Walking Dead, except for the last, because it hadn't come out yet.
Right.
So
awesome.
Got me, and I'm a zombie fan. Love zombies. So anything zombie comics. After reading The Walking Dead in the last year, I got a Kindle and have just been reading everything I can through the Kindle Unlimited that's free, and then going through DC Universe and reading, Crisis and other stuff.
Nice.
At your guys' recommendation, reading The Boys after watching
man.
it, of course.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Plus, it's Ennis. I mean, come on, it's so good.
Yeah, Garth Ennis.
So,
yeah. Yeah, despite the issues that have arisen over the summer, still going to recommend Warren Ellis.
Yeah, I will, but Preacher was, it was so good, and then I'm reading The Boys, and I'm like, this is awesome. This is awesome.
Yeah. So Blade, you chose, or I think I actually reached out to you and said, hey, you haven't done anything with us. Are you interested in Blade? What was your experience with that comic book character, or was it just movies?
It was the movies first, and then briefly just here and there whenever he'd show up in random comics, here and there. Never read it as a primary, but watched the movies quite a bit, loved them. Never even knew it was a Marvel character until years later.
Oh, I'm right there with you. I absolutely had no clue that Blade was a Marvel character. I honestly, I straight up thought he was DC.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. Like not really knowing anything about other than like Superman, Batman, DC, X-Men, Marvel. Like I straight up thought Blade was like a DC or like an independent.
Jen, your experience with Blade?
Well, I had never read the comic until I did for the show, but I have seen I think I've seen all three.
Do you remember Triple H?
Yes.
Then you've seen all three.
With the top knot and a small dog?
Yes.
He was channeling his inner Chris Jericho?
Yes, absolutely. And Ryan Reynolds was in that one, and Jessica Biel was in that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there were the Predator vampires in the second one. So if you remember,
that's the third one. Predator vampire was in the third one because that's when the dog was also a predator vampire.
No, that was the
third one.
But it started in the second one, and then they just
did it? Oh, there we go.
They expanded it because the Reapers in the second one.
Yeah, see,
I guess I haven't watched the second one in much longer than I've watched the other two.
I actually watched this week the first one. I was just going to watch that, and then I was reading up, preparing and reading up on the second one just so I, didn't sound silly. And I was like, I forgot this was directed by Guillermo del Toro.
Yep. The second one. Yeah.
And I was like, I haven't seen it since it was in the theaters, and I really didn't like it all that much. I didn't mind the third one, but I loved the first one. And so I rewatched it last night, and I was like, after seeing his style of movies, I actually liked it.
That's interesting. I may have to go back to the second one because I don't think I've watched the second. Like, I watched the third one today.
And we watched the first one
not long ago.
Yeah.
Honestly, I thought the plot in the second one was probably better than the plot in the third one, but that's debatable.
Yes,
you can at me. We can have this fight online.
Well, is it the second one or the third one that Chris Christopherson?
He's in all three.
He dies
in the first one and the third one.
Okay.
Yes. He dies a couple.
Whistler dies in the first one and the third one. I'm surprised he didn't die in the second one too, just to make it a full.
Third one.
Yeah, because Jessica Biel plays his
that
daughter.
Was the reason why I didn't like the second one.
Is that Whistler didn't die?
I didn't like the second one as much, just because he came back.
Right.
And I was no, he died. He shot himself as he walked away. This doesn't make any sense.
It's comic.
And from then on, I'm just like, ugh. Yeah. And, now that going back and rewatching it, I'm like, okay, yeah, I like the style now. I get it. I understand what he was trying to do. Plus, after watching, I don't know if you watched The Strain.
No, I haven't watched it yet.
I've seen a few episodes of it, but it's been a while since I started watching it, and it was only the first season. But it was really good.
I watched the whole thing. Yeah, I watched the whole thing. It's great. The vampires in the second one are basically the same. The Reapers are the same as the ones in The Strain.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So
they're a little less, if I recall, they're less cannibalistic though, right? In The Strain.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, they are what the vampires are in The Strain.
Yes, they're just not eating other vampires.
They don't go after other vampires.
Yeah, they're going after humans.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So when it comes to the movies, most people, like we were just talking about, don't even know that Blade was a Marvel property. Similar. Trying to remember the other property that's now it's slipping my mind, but there's another that is basically like they're doing one with Hellstrom is going to be a new show that's coming up, and it's another kind of the horror side of Marvel is kind of shunted away. Like, are any of the three of you familiar with Moon Knight?
Yes.
Nope.
Well, because
poor Batman.
Because you told me.
Because I told you about Moon Knight, but. Yeah, so like it exists over here where Moon Knight exists, and from what I understand, when the Disney Plus Moon Knight show happens, you're gonna get Ghost Rider and Blade and like the whole horror supernatural Marvel Knight side.
We need more Ghost Rider from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Ghost Rider.
Yeah,
yes.
We do. He was so good.
Agreed.
But more Robbie Reyes in general, like a much more interesting character than OG.
What, you didn't like Nicolas Cage?
Than Nicolas Cage?
Well, no. I'm thinking of the character name, not the actor name.
I love Nicolas Cage.
Was it Johnny something?
Yes,
Yes.
Johnny Blaze. I was
Johnny
just thinking
Blaze.
Johnny Cage, and I was like, that's not
That's
right.
not right. No.
Well, I was thinking Johnny Story. I'm like, what? No.
Those were $500 sunglasses, you asshole.
Asshole.
So, but in talking about Blade, like, there is a whole section. So we just did an episode on Guardians of the Galaxy where we read the Thanos Imperative, which was a lot of space Marvel. Like,
a lot of Space Marvel Cthulhu.
yes, but just so much space stuff just hunkered in. And so Blade was one of his first comics that he was a major part of. Let me look it up, make sure I don't mispronounce it. Was the Night Stalkers was the name of the comic. So Blade didn't have his own comic for a pretty long time. He showed up. There used to be horror comics like Tomb of Dracula is where he first showed up, and hopping around in like basically anthology series. And then we got the Night Stalkers, which was him, Doctor Strange, who else was in that one? Ghost Rider showed up in that, Blaze showed up in that one, like a lot of the what are deemed kind of the Marvel Knights, where they go and they they team up with someone called the Son of Satan, which is actually where that Hellstrom show comes from. The comic used to be called Son of Satan, and somehow that got away with the comics code. Like, that was okay to have a comic about the Son of Satan. But shunted away, like, we've seen Ghost Rider, a Moon Knight show's coming out. How interested would you have been in the concept of Blade had it not been for the Wesley Snipes movies? Like, if somebody had just said, hey, so there's a guy, he's a half vampire, he can walk during the day and he hunts vampires, it's a comic, you want to read it?
I might.
Yeah, I might.
Okay, so now that we got into the comic, was it kind of what you expected?
I honestly, for me, it was better than what I expected.
Same.
I went into it thinking, okay, well, this is based off of Wesley Snipes, so I've definitely got Wesley Snipes' version of Blade stuck in my head. And I'm reading through this, and this character is portrayed way differently than Wesley Snipes does. This character is remorseful and kind of almost haunted, almost like a Constantine type character, where like inside his own head he's kind of remorseful. Yeah, he's still a dick, but like inside his own mind he's still pretty remorseful. He's still looking out for the little guy. Not as big a dick as Constantine,
right?
Which I didn't get from Wesley Snipes' portrayal at all. Like, I just got, hey, I'm Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, I got 70s blaxploitation action movie from Wesley Snipes stuff.
I don't even know if I'd have gone that far, because
I don't
like,
think so. It was so 90s. It
well,
really
yes,
is.
but I'm I'm just saying the way that Blade was portrayed is I'm gonna kill them all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I
this
would
one doesn't.
agree in the first one, yes. Yeah, in the first one, definitely. I mean, they tried to do that whole, vibe of I'm on the streets and I'm gonna get you, sucker, type thing,
right?
From that,
right.
But I don't want to say anything wrong. But it was I thought he had more of a code in the comic.
Absolutely.
He kind of that was what I was so much different than what it was on the movie. He really had, this is what we do. These are how I do it. I was taught by these people to do it this way, and you always stick to your code. And
right.
And there were some fun twists to it also. I thought the whole I won't delve too much into it, but that whole camera thing with the cops in the middle of it.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I thought that was how he got away with some stuff was clever and stuff you don't really see in the movie, but was in the comics, and I was like, okay, that was clever.
Yeah, I mean, he does definitely have the balance of attack first, ask questions later, but he also uses his wits to get out of situations. Just in this, so we read, we should probably talk about that. We read Blade 1 through 6. It is called Undead Again by Mark Guggenheim. Mark Guggenheim. And
Arrow TV show.
Did he?
Yep.
Why do
Arrow and Legends.
Why do I not like that?
You're watching the CW.
I was surprised that Blade didn't have a team that he didn't tell them something and get in trouble about later.
Right?
Well, people can create things that you like and then do a bunch of other stuff that you really hate.
This is true. This is absolutely true.
So this comic came out in 2006. It was just past Civil War stuff in Marvel, which you get into real quick because they Shield comes and wants to talk to.
I did not care for that at all.
Yeah,
I'm like, what the heck is this doing in this comic? Why?
Because
Maria Hill,
right.
Why are you here? Go away.
I took that in stride with the fact that we also got to have interactions with Doom.
Yes,
I mean,
so
I loves me some Doom,
and that's where I was going with it. This is the first comic we read for this show that Dr. Doom was in, and we didn't have to read a Fantastic Four comic to make that happen.
Right? I mean, I would read a Fantastic Four comic to see some Doom. I just don't want to have to watch some movies again.
But now you don't have to.
This is true.
Because you've read a Blade comic.
That was enough to get me my fix. I mean, make those veins pop.
Grab your belt.
Well, and I don't want to spoilers for the comic, but there was another fairly, like, for me, jarring character that shows up in the comic that I'm like, why? Why is this here? Why is this here? But the payoff was good, and I appreciated that.
Yeah,
agreed. Think of which one you're talking
I don't
about.
consider mine a spoiler. I'm just teasing people.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Doom's in here.
Yeah.
When he's thinking about his past and he lets that guy go.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
When he realizes that he owed him
I
one.
like it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
The whole code thing, you know?
Yes. Yep. No, I do like that. Yes, you're right. Now I remember which character shows up at the end. Well, I mean, and this comic is just, it's very Marvel Universe. Like, the first page is him fighting a vampire Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And that's when, like, other people show up and he's like, and they're like, why didn't you kill him? And he's like, well, radioactive blood, it'll burn out the virus before it really takes hold. I just had to keep it busy.
Enzymes. not virus.
You're right. Enzymes.
Yes.
You would think in this time of COVID, I would start paying attention to those differences.
Right? That'd probably help.
Where's those enzymes when we need them? Need Wolverine's healing factor.
Right. This is my last prepared question before we just kind of go to a round table. Is in a modern context, obviously the Wesley Snipes movie was one of the first comic book movies to be successful. It was 2 years before X-Men. That not many people remember that the comic book movement, and in fact, X-Men really got its momentum off of Blade. Like, normally studios said comic book movies don't work, which is...
Well, unless you were Superman, Batman...
Right.
Unless you were a big enough name that everybody already knew who you were.
Right. Absolutely. I stand corrected on that part. You're absolutely right. DC kind of had the corner on that market for a long time. Yeah. Having read this comic now and seeing the differences in the character, like we mentioned, he's a little more cerebral in this. He's a little less like...
Wesley Snipes.
Yeah. He's a.
We had the same conversation when we were talking about Hellboy and how we put Ian McShane into the new Hellboy movie, and Ian McShane isn't really playing father, he's playing Ian McShane. When you put Wesley Snipes into a movie, be it Blade, be it Art of War, Expendables 3, like you just get the same character. It's just Wesley Snipes.
Right.
He's playing the same character the whole time.
I was amused, though, that he was supposed to be in all of the Expendables movies, but he couldn't leave the country because of his tax stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, the question itself is, now that you've read the comic and seen the version of that character, is Blade, A, a good movie, and I'm just talking about the first one, A, a good movie, and B, an accurate representation of the character? Schwegs, we'll start with you.
I would say that Blade is a good movie. I thought, after rewatching it, it's been years, I really enjoyed watching it again. I mean, seeing Quinn just get everything chopped off, burned alive. Who's the actor? Is it Donald Logue, or I'm trying to remember. Luge?
Yeah, he was the guy that played Harvey Bullock in Gotham.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Donald
Yes.
Yeah.
He was in Sons of Anarchy.
Donald
and
Logue.
he's in a ton of stuff.
He is in a ton of stuff.
Yeah. Just seeing him, it was so much fun to see him come back from all that. Hey, I got 2 hands. I'll take you now, and then head chopped off.
Right.
It was so the one-liners. I mean, it was. Whistler. I mean, he made that was just great. Whistler was just awesome in that movie. Steven Dorff was good. All around, I think that representation for the 90s, and I'm a 90s kid. I mean, you're a 90s. We're 90s kids. I mean, it really just brought back a lot of good memories, and yeah. Sorry, Jen. I know.
It's all right. I lived in the 90s.
That's true.
That is true. No, I really thought it was good. Now, accurate to like this comic? No, not really. But I mean, I'd have to go back and reread some of the original that was done by was it Marv Wolfman?
Marv Wolfman in 1973. So you'd be going further back than Dark Phoenix.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just get painful. Just saying.
I know it can. I've actually I've actually instead have picked up another. After listening to your guys' podcast, I picked up another one that is Marvel by the Month. I don't know if.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
And they're basically, every episode is just from the beginning of Marvel, what happened that first month, and then on every month after. Every podcast is every time they released enough issues. And I've gotten through a year of that, and now they're like, remember how we used to talk a lot about these comics? Well, now we're just going to be brief, because now there's 15 comics instead of just 2.
Right.
Yeah, so hearing them talk about it, it's really kind of cool.
Another one like that is called Explain the X-Men, where they go from the very beginning of the X-Men. Explain the X-Men.
That's a good one. Explain the X-Men. I may have to try that.
And if you want the history of the X-Men,
So I might catch it right now. I'm on I think 1966 right now for that. So I've got a good 8 years before I hit Blade.
Yikes. All right, Jen.
I don't even think they've recorded that many.
I thought the movie was good. I liked the movie. I have actually, there are very few movies that I will watch more than once or twice. And I think I've probably seen it a few times. I would watch it again. Do I think it was a good representation of the comic?
Of the character.
Of the character?
As we've seen him in this.
Not at all. And I think that the movie could have been better if we had more of the comic book character's backstory in the movie character.
Okay, fair.
I will also agree that the movie was good. Wasn't an accurate representation of the comic-ish. I mean, all of the elements were there. They just kind of had the writer and the director's spin put on them a little bit. It wasn't the way I would have, after having read the comic, it's not the way I would have really done it. But for what it was at the time, I mean, Blade's one of those almost iconic 90s movies. Probably everybody that we know is, granted, we hang out with a lot of nerds. We love you all, but we all know that we can smell our own. We're nerds. Everybody's seen that movie. I thought it was a good movie, and like I said, all the story elements were there. I just not entirely sure that I liked, after having read the comic, how everything went together. And I agree with Jen. I think if we would have had a little bit more of that representation of that sort of Constantine-esque of, being a little bit haunted, being a little bit remorseful. I think that probably would have gone a long way to making it a more interesting movie.
Well, another thing that I just thought of when you said the Constantine and remorseful is the Whistler character. There's a similar character, like the character that teaches him and is his mentor in the comic is gone, and not gone like died. You don't know what happened to him because Blade had to leave. So I'm not sure comparatively if Whistler, like I'm kind of getting deep here, but I don't know if Whistler actually was that good of a character compared to the mentor in the comic.
So, having looked at these, I do think that the first Blade movie is a really fun movie. Having rewatched it today, and especially since we've been recently going back through, like we watched all the Bourne movies, and we've been working on Resident Evil movies, and
Resident Evil.
Yeah, and so like
oh my,
cheesy action movies, I guess is the best kind of category for it.
Oh well, come on, we did the
Fast the Furious, yeah.
So
I don't even know if that classifies as easy. It's just like I feel like getting drunk and watching a 12-year-old write a script for a movie about cars.
Oh, that's
pretty cheesy.
It is also it's also really amusing when you watch them, and at one point Jen just jumps up and goes, "Oh, come on, physics!"
I can attest that actually happened.
But in that way, I think Blade 3 is my favorite one. And I just watched it today, and it's still fresh, but the beginning fight scene, I don't know if you'll remember it, but there's a beginning fight scene in it is the most ridiculous, like, Blade comes out and there's an explosion and there's new metal playing and there's a car chase involved and he's just like shooting everyone. And I thought I was watching like a Resident Evil movie, like that caliber of I'm a badass. Like you're just injecting testosterone straight into your veins watching it. But the Blade in the comic is not that. Like, if you look at the cover for even the one the graphic novel that we did, like, it's him going through a bunch of vampires, he's got the sword out, and he's firing a gun, and there's very little of that in the actual comic. It's a lot more, I mean, he does get in fights, but it's a lot more, he is analyzing situations, and trying to figure out, not exactly the path of least resistance, but the one that achieves his goals in the simplest way. And what that is not is the bloodbath scene from the first Blade movie. That's just gratuitous.
That's awesome. Come on, that's iconic at this point.
Well, yes. But it in the comic, I like your comparison to Constantine, because in the Keanu Reeves Constantine movie, the comic Blade reminds me of the Constantine that takes the reliquary and puts it in the water tank to then bless everything, and then goes and lights the fire under the sprinkler system to then douse all of the demons. That is a Blade move. Like, that's a comic book Blade move. Yeah. That is something that I'm like, yep. And they don't get to that until, like, if I remember the second one, a little bit in the second one, but the third one is a lot more of that, like, yeah, I'm a badass, I'm going to kick people's asses, but I'm also going to use some toys, like new toys.
The third one was just gratuitous, just because, I mean, look at the money they dropped on cast alone.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds, Ron Perlman, who was the one?
Jessica Biel. Chris Christopherson.
Yeah, like everybody that was in that movie, it's like the money that they spent on cast has had to have just been astronomical.
Yep. And then for the villain, they got Rory before he was Rory and Triple H.
Yeah.
Going back though to Ryan Reynolds. So Ryan Reynolds in the third movie played Hannibal King, who is not in this one. He's actually in the book after this one, but he was one of those Night Stalker characters, another one from the 70s, another vampire hunter. He was also black in the comics. And it's unfortunate, like looking back on it now, I'm like, oh yeah, Ryan Reynolds played a really fun character and it was great. And I'm going to research that character and whitewashed.
Oh, whitewashed.
Yeah. So, I mean, they could do a little better, I guess, if in this new Blade that's coming out, that's going to be played by, what was the actor?
Oh, I missed that. They're doing a new Blade?
He's going to be, Mahershala Ali is going to play him in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Mahershala is playing him.
Yep. And
that was announced last year at Comic-Con, I believe.
True Detective, yeah. Yeah, third season of True Detective. He was Cottonmouth in Luke Cage.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, no, he's been in another superhero movie. What's he been in?
Right.
He was really good.
I still think that we need to get, I can't remember the actor's name now that played
M'Baku. Yeah.
M'Baku.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope they do more with him, too.
He needs to have something more because he was great. I loved every minute of him on the screen.
I pretty much stole every scene.
Yeah. So, roundtable. Does anyone have any other questions for Blade?
Do you have more?
That's what I had.
No, do you have more Blade?
Yeah.
I do not have more Blade now, so I'm going to guess that the answers
Don't have
are
more Blade now.
our last question.
Yes. The last question is...
I mean, I have a lot of... Yeah, I've got a lot of nerd facts, if you want to know. The whole reason why... Marvel, it was nowhere, anywhere in the credits of Blade at all, which is one of the reasons none of us knew that it was a comic book movie.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it was because Marvel had filed their bankruptcy in 1996, and part of their getting out of it, they started selling the rights, and Blade was the first one that was taken by New Line Cinema, mostly because, vampires in the 90s were huge.
Yep.
Josh, I know. Right. You know how big they were.
Yeah, the huge success of the Aaron Spelling show Kindred the Embraced alone.
Exactly. I was waiting for that. In fact, I have it written down right here on my paper. Wait for Wasta to say Kindred the Embraced.
Nice.
Buffy the Vampire.
And he's over there playing bingo.
Buffy the Vampire
He's
Slayer.
listened to us enough. He's got his own bingo
He's
card.
got a
Right.
card,
No, I just grew up with Josh. So
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You on this panel
He's the
right
one
now,
that made
you
me
have known
watch that
me.
show.
You have known me the longest out of anyone on this panel.
That is true.
We're sorry for your
very
loss.
So
Oh,
there was something that there was one thing in the comic that I really liked where Blade showed that he was a huge nerd, because there's a scene, and it's not really a spoiler because we've already mentioned that Maria Hill is in here. He's he's talking to Maria Hill, and she references his bulletproof vest, and she says Kevlar would be proud, and he said, well, actually Kevlar is a brand name. The company's name is DuPont. And I was like, nerd!
Oh my God, that's awesome. I had forgotten about that part.
The other thing about with them having to sell the rights, because I mean this is the first one they sold. They only sold it for a flat fee of $25,000. That's all they got for those three movies. Wow. They made $500 million at the box office, and Marvel got $25,000 for it.
Wow.
Somebody's kicking themselves.
Insane.
Wow. Well, Disney's got it now, so they'll do fine.
Yeah, I'm sure that they were they were very happy.
Disney's kicking themselves.
Yeah.
Disney's kicking themselves because Marvel in 96, the majority of their debt was owned by Disney, and they had the option to take Marvel at that time and said, I don't think so. I don't think it really fits in with our brand.
Well,
it didn't at the
that
time.
Yeah, it really didn't at the time.
It would have cost them, I think they had to cure maybe $17 million in debt. That's all it would have cost them to get Marvel at that time, instead of the billions.
It's only $2 million more than The Rock paid for the XFL this week.
And episode has become dated.
Yeah. So, Schwegler, now that you've read this, you've mentioned that you've got your Kindle and you'll be loading other things up. Is the rest of Blade going to be on that list?
There's a possibility of that. If I can get through The Boys and some other stuff and whatever else is out there. The next part I have to buy. It's not part of the Kindle Unlimited.
Well, you can also get a Marvel Marvel subscription. You can do a trial for 30 days.
Yep, which is on my thought process of possibly doing that once my Kindle Unlimited trial and then this Unlimited trial is done. And you know the whole, I'll use this email for that and then this email for that. And
no, we run a tight ship here. We run everything's above
board.
Hey, I actually paid for DC for a while there just because I wanted to get through Titans and Young Justice.
See, I still pay for DCU and it's still worth it to me because the Harley Quinn cartoon was awesome, and some of the stuff that they're putting out on there is great, and their comic subscription comes with it. So that's totally worth it
it's
to me.
Fantastic.
For $7.
Yeah, when the Arrowverse was doing their Crisis on Infinite Earths, I actually reread Crisis from back in the 85 and was just like, hey, this is pretty good.
I keep pushing for that for a show,
Blade was the I keep doing it. I'll push for it.
No. No.
If you decide any of the DC shows, I'm always up for it. I even
There you
watched
go.
Stargirl.
Oh yeah, I watched the first episode of that. I want to watch more. And Doom Patrol we've started recently.
Doom Patrol was actually
you
really
just
good.
started it?
Yeah.
Brendan Fraser, his catchphrase is fantastic.
So good.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
just every episode ends with him yelling, "What the fuck?"
Bear,
It's fantastic.
Will you keep reading? Well, you've already asked.
Oh yeah, I would definitely keep reading, assuming I can find time to read more. I still have that omnibus of Hellboy sitting on my end table right beside my couch that I'm going to get around to one of these days, I swear. But yeah, no, I would absolutely read more Blade in a heartbeat.
Jen?
Yeah, I would absolutely. Yeah. I really liked it.
This storyline really took you?
Yeah, I mean, aside from
Maria Hill.
Yeah, like an entire hover, whatever those things are called, full of vampires. That was dumb.
Yeah, I will say the plot with Doom alone, I would recommend this to most people. It also kind of weaves through pretty smartly a retelling of the prophecy, the like Daywalker prophecy that was touched on in the movies. And from what I understand, it's just more of that in the next collection. So yeah, I'm on the same boat.
The flashbacks were great. The flashbacks in the comic were great. I mean, if it was just that, I think I could, just go for that and just do the retelling that way and just forget about all the current stuff.
I don't know. You'd miss out on Doom. You'd miss out on the mystery guest that Jen alluded to before. There were some. Really
the flashbacks throughout, going back and forth. I mean, Tarantino. It would take him in a Quentin Tarantino way of, hey, here's what happened here, then here.
Right, but I didn't find it distracting. I thought that it was done, even though it was like. There were a couple of times where I was like, wait, what is going on now? What? But most of the time I thought it was done well, and I was able to follow what was going on. I didn't have to go back and read it and again to understand what the heck was happening.
Right. The characters that show up are pretty self-explanatory. They're introduced in a way that even if you're not familiar with them, you understand who they are and what they're there for. I will say, unlike Thanos Imperative, where characters were just coming out of every orifice.
Literally.
In some cases.
Yeah, in some pages, there were so many characters. You were like, is there another character behind that guy? What's going on? Oh, I think I see a foot back there. That was ridiculous.
It was a raccoon foot, so you know who it was.
No, actually, it was a prosthetic foot.
Oh, I'm going to need that.
But you still know who it was.
Yeah. Well, Schwegs, thank you so much for jumping in with us and recording this.
Oh, my pleasure.
We had a lot of fun with it. We'll see if we can bring you back in. We'll juggle you with our other DC experts and see if we can find something. Maybe if I can convince my co-panelists to get a Stargirl or an Arrow or something.
Even if it's just the Flash, just do Flashpoint. I'm all for that.
I mean, I've seen the first season of Flash. We could probably do that. It just goes downhill from there.
I like the Flash.
Yeah, I actually have been watching the show, and I think I'm halfway through season 2, and I'm enjoying it. It does not bother me as much as it did when it came out, because I think I was still too into Arrow was still good at that time.
Yeah.
And so
it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
All right. Well, now I got to remember what our next episode is, because it's in a few weeks.
Wonder Woman,
Yes.
which is almost a month away.
Yep. All right. Well, join us next time when we have Kat Essman with us, and we will be doing another DC property, Wonder Woman, which we haven't watched. Jen and I have not watched the movie.
Oh, you're missing out, dude. That's a good flick.
Well,
What do you mean we're missing out?
We gotta
have to
watch it.
this stupid thing. Come on.
Saying.
We will not be missing
You
out.
have been missing out. You will not be shortly.
And in our reading for that, we will be going back into the loving embrace of Gail Simone, who we did with our Birds of Prey episode. So until then, we'll see you soon, and take it away, Vandello.
Come with me, I'll tell a story that you might have heard before. Graphically novel, but the same old trouble. Villains always knocking at the door. Pretty pictures on the page, but nothing ever stays the same. Do 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 do. Come at me, and I'll show you something you ain't never seen before. Right or wrong, or can't we all just get along? My mask is no different than yours. Pretty pictures on the screen, but nothing's ever as it seems.
Nothing's ever as it seems.